Welcome to the Scent of Beauty. My name is Susan, and I want to do a part two of Expressionists because it really have impacted my mind on the image that is presented to us and how many times have we bought into, at least psychologically, what another person have decided that we look like to them, their reality. I spoke about Sir Winston Churchill in my first video, and I want to still talk about Winston Churchill because it really opened my eyes to how others perceive us and how we really have to fight for our own rights, our own legacy. If it's only our internal fight, but we have to take a stand. I had to take a stand for my sense of being. Sir Winston Churchill, right, had to stand up, at least verbally, to Garam Sutherland, the artist that painted the self-portrait of Sir Winston Churchill. Sir Winston Churchill said to Mr. Sutherland that he was hoping to be painted in his Knight of Garther attire, but the ones that commissioned Mr. Sutherland to do the self-portrait specify that they wanted Sir Winston Churchill in his usual parliamentary dress attire, which was like a basic trousers and basic bow tie, and they specify that. And the question you and I have to ask ourselves, who commissioned the person that is painting our portrait, and do you have a say in the matter? The House of Commons and the House of Lords wanted the self-portrait to be hung in the Parliament once Sir Churchill had passed away. And it's funny that that's the image they wanted to hold on to of Sir Winston Churchill when they know the historical contribution that he made to Britain, for the people. They painted him as a curmudgeon holding on to a chair with withered hands. And, they likened the picture to President Abraham Lincoln, that the image of President Lincoln at the the memorial in Washington, which is a totally different image. There is something to be said about pride, because President Lincoln sat up and the memorial had the president in a position with his back straight and with his hands grasped on the chair, but with strength. So it's not an age factor, it is a respect factor and honor. Pride comes with an astute sense of being. Sir Churchill said, we will not surrender. And, pride has this negative connotation attached to it, but pride has more than one meaning. And when he said, we will not surrender, because he knew the worth of himself and his people. Sir Churchill said to Nazi Germany when everyone else was afraid, he motivated his people and himself. And he said, "We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills, and we shall never surrender." The image of Sir Winston Churchill that Mr. Sutherland painted does not send them that message. And so often in our psyche, we hold on to messages that we need to return, that we need to burn out of our psyche so that we can have the last word in our story. It is said that a picture says 1,000 words. Sir Churchill's wife, Clementine, and the secretary, they knew that wasn't his legacy based on the image that was being projected. It was almost as a joke, almost as an insult. I said it in the first video, and I'll say it again, that dignity is held by my personal conviction to be perceived as something that I'm not. You see, if we know Winston Churchill's history from childhood, he started from humble beginnings. He was a bricklayer, a painter, charismatic. He had vigor and zeal. And what happened a lot of the time, the painters, the expressionists, who is quote unquote only telling the truth by their perception, extract the life away from who we are, who try to extract the life from Sir Winston Churchill and made him look withered and worn. He looked so worn out. But at the end of the day, the scent of beauty is knowing my contribution, and you and I have to really examine our psyche and look at the image that so often we uphold that has extracted our essence, our scent, our contribution in the lives of others, and say, is that really who we are and who we want to live? Do we want to live in support of those self-images that others have painted and we have hung in our minds, in our psyche? We hang them up like they're in a art gallery. We have them on our walls, and the scent of beauty really is to walk through our mind, our mindset, and see what we have allowed others to hang on the walls of our minds that we worry about, and that we have allowed them to dictate and to show images of ourselves, even if we don't show it. And you know what? In actuality, an expressionist, the painter, expresses the emotion behind an image. Like with Sir Churchill, the image, the emotion is of an old, tired, scowly man, which contradict everything about Mr. Churchill's emotions, because he was charismatic and he spoke with confidence. Totally a different person sitting in that chair? And do we have in the galleries of our consciousness and even unconsciousness an image of a stranger commissioned to be painted by individuals? Where are those paintings coming from? Do we even take a look at the source of our psyche and the emotion that they're releasing based on the self-image that we have hung? Who commissioned those painting, and are they releasing the scent of beauty that we know that we hold within? I am so honored to know just the story about Sir Churchill, that they did burn the picture. And, Mr. Sutherland said it's vandalism. I'm not here to argue one way or another. All I know is that he stood for the scent of his being. And at the end of our day, who are we standing for? Are we standing for our scent of beauty? Do we need to burn out some images that someone has commissioned and painted and we have hung up in our psyche? Will we ever surrender ourselves to another person, or are we going to be victorious in our own life with our own emotion of joy